And I'm Jill Coleman.
Welcome to the Best Life Podcast.
Here, we talk about everything from success, money, relationships, and entrepreneurship to productivity, honest communication, positive psychology, and how to cultivate an abundance mindset.
Make money, travel the world, deepen your relationships, live full out.
This is the best life.
Welcome to the Best Life Podcast. This is Danny J.
And Jill Coleman.
Oh my gosh, this is our first episode.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited. We have so much to say. We had to figure out what we weren't going to talk about.
Yeah, so we're so excited to have you guys here. First off, just welcome. We can't wait to get into all of the things, and we're just really, really psyched to have you here.
Yeah, and so we wanted to take this episode to give you guys a little bit of background information if you do not know Danny and myself, what we do, basically our entrepreneurial kind of journey, and also what exactly is the best life. So it's a little bit audacious to think that we can call something the best life, but we do believe that this is the best life and that everyone has the ability to live their best life by doing some things in particular. So Danny, let's start with your story. So I know that there's a lot of different facets, but let's just keep it to your entrepreneurial journey in fitness, into finance and all that kind of stuff, and how you and I met and how we got to this point.
Yeah. So, okay, I went to college and graduated with my degree in physical education. I was coaching gymnastics, so I always loved being physical. I loved sport and that kind of thing. And so kind of ironically, I was an acrobat. I ended up getting paralyzed, and out of the paralysis, I started doing a lot of rehab on myself. So I was learning this stuff anyway, and I decided I might as well get certified as a trainer. I didn't know if I would ever use it, but I just went that direction. And
can we also point out how you just went completely breezed over, and then I was paralyzed, and then I rehab from that. We'll get into that maybe in a different episode.
Maybe another episode. But yeah, so it's an interesting journey, and it's how I ended up being a trainer. It was never anything I set out to do, but I loved it because I didn't necessarily, my degree was in phys ed. I didn't want to be a teacher. Mostly because the pay was so low. And so, yeah, I just started doing personal training, and I actually got really, I think when you become a trainer, you feel like you have to look the part.
Totally.
So I was getting really into fitness, and I started doing fitness competitions, and that's kind of where I first saw you online. So we were on MySpace back then, and I was posting all these pictures of my abs, the abs album, and getting into the fitness lifestyle. And ultimately, I ended up training myself way, way too hard and getting adrenal fatigue. And so it was this interesting struggle of wanting to talk about fitness, but also I had to take a break from fitness. And around the same time as well, I was getting a lot of trainers asking me how I was building a brand online. So at the same time, I was working with a lot of other trainers, kind of teaching them how to do online marketing and business. And that's kind of what you do now. And just another really interesting shift. My husband and I started doing network marketing, and I was seeing a lot of my clients who had binge eating issues and also debt issues. And so I kind of just wanted to talk about more than just fitness. And I really kind of shifted in maybe 2015, tried to rebrand myself and be more of a lifestyle. I think my pillars of my business are really freedom, wellness, and success. And so those are the things I really love to talk about. But you had a really similar background, at least as far as the fitness and training stuff. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we had a very similar, I spent all my 20s basically doing competitions, fitness modeling, same kind of thing, sexy photos on MySpace. And, most of our following were dudes being like, what's up? And it was just not, it was fine. But really, in the early days of social media, people didn't know how to really do social media.
Yeah.
You only put your most perfect stuff in front, right? All your Tupperwares and your perfect abs. And I know for me, if I wasn't in show shape, I just wouldn't post on social media.
Totally.
I would just go underground. Yeah, but I think you and I are a little bit different in that I know your story, and you were totally like a rebel growing up. You were always questioning things, and I feel like you are an entrepreneur at heart. I don't think I was that. I think I am now, but I think early on I was very much of a certainty mindset. Mm. So you said one of your pillars is freedom. For me, at least my early 20s after I graduated college was very much about security, comfort, certainty, wanting to have the marriage, have the career, have the 401k, and so it was a really a rush to have all those things. And so for me, when I was about 24, that's when I did my very first fitness competition. And for me, doing a competition looking back makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that we do share is we are recovering perfectionists.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, having the perfect body and getting up on stage next to other women and being judged on your physique is kind of insane. But at the same time, it definitely is something that if you're a perfectionist, you can feel good enough if your body looks a certain way. So I really fell in love with, when I put these foods in my body, when I do this type of exercise, when I do this amount of exercise, I get to change the way I look. And it's one of those things that at first it's really a good thing, right? Obviously we have a health epidemic and people need to be doing more exercise. They need to be eating healthier. But for people like you and I who are driven by control and perfectionism, it got out of hand.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of similar stories. I never was like typically, diagnosed full adrenal fatigue, but I certainly did hours and hours of cardio to the point that I lost my motivation, that, I noticed different changes physiologically, skin, hair, those kind of things. And at that point, it was becoming really obsessive.
Yeah.
So this is in my late 20s. I was super obsessed with food, counting, measuring, doing hours of cardio every day, feeling helpless to know what else to do, feeling terrified to do anything else. And it wasn't until I started my business at jillfit.com and the iteration that it is now in when I was 29 years old, that I started seeing my focus shift to other people. Obviously we get into fitness because we love helping people, but if you've ever been a personal trainer, you're grinding at the gym, that only lasts so long. It's hard to feel when you're doing 12 sessions a day for like 5 years straight to wake up every morning and feel super passionate about helping people. You do, but you definitely get exhausted as well. And so at 29, I was working full time. I just launched JillFit. I was still personal training and teaching, working maybe 70 to 80 hours a week in the gym. And I knew something had to change. And it wasn't until I discovered online business and really was like, okay, I can have an online business, but I need to learn how to do online business. And it was around the same time, 2012, 2013, that both you and I kind of separately had very similar entrepreneurial journeys where we started like spending money on mentorships and coaching and going to events. And people in the fitness industry just weren't doing that.
Yeah.
So we were meeting people outside of our industry and going like, wow, this whole internet business thing is really a lot bigger than MySpace. Yeah. And, it's not about just like working a booth at the Olympia and getting a supplement sponsorship and getting into magazines. And both you and I were like, okay, let's get a cover of a magazine. And we did that stuff. And it still was the same. We're still obsessed. And so you and I met in 2013 at an event.
An event that we were both speaking at.
Yeah, and we talked, and it was on entrepreneurship, which is cool.
Yeah, actually, that's what we talked about. So it's so crazy because we had this shift around the same time, and I knew we knew of each other, but we never really talked. If somebody said, "Do you know Jill?" I could say, "Yeah, I know of her," but I didn't know you. And it's super interesting too because I think we both realized also, getting a cover, it wasn't paying the bills, and I was getting sponsorships, but it was like free protein, and I'm like, I can't pay my rent with protein powder, and it's cool to get free clothes, but I also can't buy a car with some leggings. So, it was also a shift for me going, okay, this isn't sustainable. And also, I was so exhausted from the exercise and I was going, also, I don't know if my body is sustainable. I don't know if I could continue to keep up this look. And what if I can't? And so I was terrified and I'm thinking there's got to be other ways. There's got to be ways I can make money. And there has to be ways that I can do this where, like you were working 60 to 80 hours a week. It's like, I just couldn't keep that up anymore. So yeah, we met at an event and we didn't become BFFs right then, actually. But that was the very first time we met.
I remember sitting down and knowing of each other and you telling me your story and I'm just sitting going, oh my God, me too. Yeah. That's exactly what happened to me too. That's so funny. That's me too. And we're both nodding and laughing and probably a couple drinks too. But I remember just feeling so connected in that way. And then we just, you lived, I think at the time in maybe Dallas and so we didn't really stay in touch too much until a couple years ago.
Yeah. So 2015, this is really funny too, because besides all the Me Too's of our business, our marriages were very similar. We were both 7-8 years apart from our husband. Jill and I are the same age. Our husbands were about the same age. We got married around the same time. So we had a lot of really funny, Me Too. We're like, we live parallel lives. And then I had moved to Utah and I found out, I don't know, I guess maybe through social media that Jill moved to California. And I was like, hey, let's meet. Maybe we should meet halfway, meet in Vegas. And it could be like a couple's trip. And at that time, Jill was like, Jade's not going to be there. So I was like, okay, cool. So I just decided it's going to be a girls' trip. And then I found out that you guys were separated.
Yeah.
And that was a big shock. And we're going to talk about this in one of our episodes. But, Jill and Jade had one of those relationships that I really admired and looked up to. And so when I found out they separated, I was kind of shocked. I think when you see somebody's their lives online, you idealize them, and I really admired them too. And also because we had all the Me Too's, I'm like, oh gosh, well, if you guys are separated, what's going to happen to us? Does it spread? And apparently it does. But Yeah, I was really surprised, but I was also, I think it really brought us closer because that was the first time like we had really talked in a more personal level.
Yeah, for sure. And it was, at that point I definitely had not been public about our separation because we were still going through a lot of stuff. So we didn't talk about it at all publicly. And I have only talked about it publicly for like the last year or so. And being able to share that with you and to have you be in my inner circle like that and be able to like hold space for me was a really big deal. So that started, was a couple months after I moved to Los Angeles. I knew no one in LA. Mm-hmm. And you and Nate actually came and stayed in my place while I was in Australia for a month.
Yeah. So this is what was crazy. So we had just been living with my grandmother, and I was like, I found out Jill was going to go to Australia for a month, and I go, what are you doing with your place? Because we maybe need a break from grandma. And it turned out, thank God we did get a break, and we loved California. So after leaving, there was kind of this talk of maybe we would move out. And honestly, I found out in June. So that was February 2016. And then June 2016, I found out that my husband was having an affair. And I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anybody. Only 2 people knew. One of my best friends, because she just happened to call, and I put her on speakerphone and put him on blast, and it was drama. And then my sister-in-law, and I did not want to tell my parents. I didn't want to tell anyone. And even though Jill had opened up to me about her marriage, I was still just so embarrassed. And it was probably a few weeks later, she texted me out of the blue and said, hey, are you guys moving to California? And I'm like, maybe you should call me. And I said, well, we aren't, and I explained what happened, and Jill was just so gracious, and she was like, just come stay with me. And I'm like, are you serious? And literally, I just remember like tearing up and thinking, I actually might need to take you up on that. And I didn't really know how serious she was. And like I said, we weren't like close. We didn't talk every day on the phone or anything, but I just didn't know what else to do. I was in a very small town and at risk of running into him and his new girlfriend at the time, I guess, all the time. And, I was trying to move out of my grandma's anyway. There was a lot going on. And so I was just like, if you're serious, I'm coming. And here we are.
I loved it. And, you were like, I'm driving around and crying in parking lots. I was like, you need to get out. You need to get out of there. At least a change of scenery. It's still hurtful. It's still painful. It's still sad. It's still all the feels. And we'll get into that, all the feels next episode. But I loved that you trusted me enough to come. I think that is when we talk about relationships. And of course, in this podcast, we're going to talk about all sorts of communication, honesty, relationships. And to me, I love the fact that you trusted me enough to come and be like, I don't know what I'm going to do. My business is a little bit on hold right now because I'm dealing with this emotional stuff. We have family things going on. And that, I think for us, we bonded so much during those first couple of months, just like living together, talking about things. You were traveling a lot. I was traveling a lot. We had my like new puppy, which was like thrown in the mix, and she was insane, but we all really connected so strongly at that point. And so that brings us to the story of The Best Life.
The Best Life.
So The Best Life is, again, like a very just kind of audacious name, but we knew that going into it. And again, it's one of those things that I think you define for yourself, right? Yeah. You define for yourself. But for us, it has a lot to do with, you said the word freedom, gratitude, and appreciation, even in the suckiest times.
Yeah.
So I remember it was right after you. The reason why I wanted to tell the story is because to set the stage for, Danny came to live with me in Los Angeles for a couple months. It was maybe the first week you were there. I had this tiny, tiny little apartment in Santa Monica because I didn't know where I was going. So I had this tiny, tiny apartment in Santa Monica, four blocks back from the Santa Monica Pier on the 5th floor. And I had a little balcony, and the place was so tiny that you couldn't actually hang out inside because there was just no sitting space. So we always would hang out on the patio, and we had 2 chairs and it faced the water. And one night we're sitting there and we're having a glass of wine and we're talking, and the sun is setting in the background, and it's like this beautiful West Coast sunset. And I just looked at you and I was like, this is just the best life. Isn't this the best life?
You were like, yeah.
And you're like, yeah, it is. Even though you're in so much pain emotionally, like I'm transitioning out of my marriage. It's like all the feels all the time, so heavy. But when you look up and you're in an amazing place with like amazing friends, having amazing conversation, having a delicious glass of wine, and the sunset's there, it's like, how can you not be appreciative for the fact that you get to do this?
I just got chills. I got chills last time you told this. I got chills again. Then it just became a phrase. We would just say it. We'd be at the beach and we're like, look at each other and be like, this is the best life. Or we take a walk and we just go, this is the best life. Or we go on wherever trip. We went to Cabo. We've been to Australia together. Everything we've done, we're just saying this is the best life. And literally, I can't even tell you guys how many crazy things happened at the same time. And not, you wouldn't think we're the best. But we just decided, let's choose to look at the amazing parts of it and just decide that it is the best.
That's what I was going to say. I think it is a decision, right? Like to me, it's just the ability to choose gratitude anytime, no matter where you are. And it is hard, right? That feels like really kind of, I don't know, maybe that feels a little bit tough for some people listening, but it is a choice. So it doesn't need to be our best life. No. It doesn't need to be, what we described. It can be, maybe it's hanging out with your kids. Maybe it's going on a vacation with your partner. Maybe it's having a really amazing conversation over dinner with, a loved one. It's something where you feel like, I can't believe that I get to be in this place right now.
Yes. And I get to.
I get to. And you're generating those experiences as often as you possibly can. And then also choosing gratitude in those moments.
Yep. So this is the best life, and it's the best life for you. And it's the only life. So it's like, what's the alternative? This is it. This is it. So yeah, that's how we got to the best life. And we've been chatting about doing a podcast for a little bit and trying to decide what it was going to be. And so we're really going to talk about this kind of stuff. We're going to go deep. We're going to talk about relationships. We're going to go into the nitty gritty of the good, the bad, and the ugly, but also the lessons. We're going to talk about choice and personal responsibility, having hard conversations. And we just hope you join along for the ride with us because, I don't know, it's the stuff we love to get into. The more uncomfortable, the better, I think.
I think the more uncomfortable, the better. So if you're like a little bit cringing while listening to this, that might be a good sign for us.
Yes.
To push the envelope a little bit. Obviously, we always want to hear what your feedback is. And we just wanted to give you guys some backstory into why we created this, what we're going to be talking about. Danny's, one of her favorite things to talk about is finance and how to get out of debt and all that kind of thing. We'll talk about that. Of course, entrepreneurship. If you are in the health and fitness field or you're interested in internet business, we're going to be talking about that stuff. I love to geek out on that. I know you do too.
Yes.
We're going to talk about, again, relationships for sure, honest communication. And by the way, that's not just with your romantic partner. That can be with, right?
Your boss, anyone.
It can be with coworkers. It can be with your boss. It can be with a good friend. It can be with an acquaintance. It can be a family member. It can be with a parent or a child. And I think that honest communication can be tricky, but at the same time, it is, I think you and I have both found that there's so much liberation in going to that place. And it's like ripping off a Band-Aid. And then once you start operating from a place of honesty, your relationships just become much more fulfilling.
Totally. I can't wait to talk more about that stuff. So anyway, we're so excited to have you here. We would love for you to subscribe, to review. You can go to thebestlifepodcast.com and join our Facebook group. We'll have some extended conversations and discussions in there. And also, we're super excited. This doesn't really happen for a lot of people, but for our very first podcast, before we even started, we have a sponsor, Organifi, and we will be interviewing the founder and everything there. And so we have some really cool stuff from them, but they have amazing green juice, proteins, red juice, and their new gold, which I'm so excited about. And if you go to Organifi.com and you use The Best Life at checkout, you get 20% off. So we'll talk more about them as well.
Yeah, super grateful to Organifi. Products are amazing. Both of us have been using them for a while now. And if you guys are into a healthy lifestyle, it's pretty much non-negotiable. And if you are someone who probably needs to get more vegetables, more fruit in your diet, it is known for its green juice, red juice, and it tastes really good.
It is so yummy.
I know, it's so surprising.
I know. I was like, I'm not going to like this. Oh, I like it. I've been drinking it every day.
And you have a funny story about the turmeric.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So the turmeric, it's like...
Did I say it?
I don't know.
Turmeric? I think you do.
Turmeric. Well, don't quote us on the saying of the word. But it's an anti-inflammatory. And so I was really, really sore from a workout. And usually it lasts days. And I just got some and I decided to read up on it. And there was a little card that said to take a massive dose, which I did. And literally my soreness was gone. This is more than... I usually take four or five Advil to get rid of that kind of pain. And I was like, damn, this stuff works. Yeah, so now I'm sold on that. I'm taking it every day.
I know. And we're just so grateful that they put their faith in us early on to support us. And we're going to continue to promote them and make sure and send you guys to them. So
awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us on episode 1. And we will get ready for episode 2. It goes in deep right away. So just jump on. You're going to want to binge listen.
Bye, guys.
Bye.